What happened to progression? It used to be the sole reason we would spend multiple hours at a time grinding out career modes in racing games. We had a linear structure, motivation factors, and a clear sense of direction. Nowadays, majority of racing games, and games in general, have stepped away from this concept and redefined what progression means. And in this video, we're going to cover what happened, when did it start, and why this shift took place. To start off, let's cover what progression used to be. Older racing games didn't just have more engaging progression, they were built almost entirely around it. Just think about career modes of Need for Speed Carbon or Underground 2. The car you drive, the territories you race on, the opponents. Just by looking at these things, you could almost immediately tell which stage of the career you were on. And what happened? Well, imagine doing this with a modern racing game. I don't even think that's possible. We get supercars from the start, the whole map is wide open, progressing in the game is optional, and there is almost no structure to it. Technically, the progression is still there, but it is very open and not mandatory. So, when did this start? This might be slightly controversial, but it actually started with the introduction of the open world. On paper, open world was a great idea. We got bigger maps, free travel, exploration. Need for Speed Underground 2 was a game that absolutely nailed it without hurting the progression. Not only it introduced us to the open world in Need for Speed, it actually made exploring it an essential part of the career mode. But the reason why this concept kind of broke the progression in the later games was because it broke the structure around it. It made it so you weren't exactly sure what race was next, it made some races completely optional, and in general, it made races themselves an optional part of gameplay. While this wasn't a severe case with the earlier open world games, it was only the beginning of this shift. The game where we started to feel this shift dramatically was, in my opinion, Need for Speed Most Wanted 2012. We start the game with a Porsche 911 and we are able to unlock most cars by simply finding them on the map. The progression we once knew didn't die in this game, but it was significantly narrowed down. Open world alone is not the one to blame here, but it was the foundation for this shift. And once the foundation has been laid, we got the framing, disguised as online mode. In the early 2010s, racing games began structuring particularly around being an online multiplayer. This is where Most Wanted 2012 also comes to mind. Sure, it wasn't the first open world racing game with the online mode, but it was one of the first ones that condensed the traditional progression to the point where it almost completely leveled out the playing field. Which moves us closer to answering the question, why did this shift take place? Long story short, player retention. And to expand on that, traditional progression systems are too risky in this regard. And it comes down to how both casual and non-casual players spend their time in racing games. Casual players generally hop into a racing game for no longer than an hour, get a few races in, and leave, often indefinitely. They want to start the game with a supercar and everything unlocked, because otherwise they have to start slow, they can't compete with players who already unlocked everything, and the game starts to feel either boring or unfair. This often results in uninstalls, refunds, and even negative reviews. Non-casual players, on the other hand, will spend multiple hours at a time, possibly over a span of few days, beating career modes and all of the races, and then abandoning the game for years until they get a sudden itch to replay it. And traditional progression only reinforces this behavior, which also poses higher risk of uninstalls, refunds, just not necessarily the negative reviews. And this pretty much sums it up. Newer open progression systems were specifically designed to turn casual players into non-casual and non-casual into casual, which in turn resulted in a better long-term player retention, higher sales, and less refunds, even though that's also when reviews started to become more mixed. Later on, social media, clip farming, and shorter attention spans also made their own impact, but that's a whole separate discussion. So, did modern racing games kill the progression? Yes and no. The progression still exists, It's just been restructured for the games to appeal and retain a wider range of audience. The good news is, the traditional progression seems to slowly be making its comeback. Tokyo Extreme Racer 25 absolutely nailed it, Night Runners is going in the right direction, and even Forza Horizon 6 is speculated to have the progression similar to the one of the first game. Anyway, let me know down in the comments, which racing game in your opinion had the best progression system of all time, and are you one of the players who prefers open progression, or are you the one who prefers the traditional structured career modes? If you liked the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one.